actually asked this question to Alex about Keon Coleman. So on the other side with Braden Fisk, you knew kind of what you were getting. I'm sure you watched film, you dove into it. Has he been better than you even thought he was going to be now that you've seen him in person for a full month and what he can do?
You know, Corey, yes, you know, just because you see it every day, you know, and what you see on tape is the game film, you know, and you think you know what you're going to get day to day, but I think the most impressive thing about him is the day to day. You know, he's always the same. You know, he's shown good tape over at West Michigan, but for what he does 7 days a week for us, you know, he's as consistent of a player that we have in our program right now with just daily mindset. Sorry about that. Daily mindset, daily way, just he goes about his business, you know, really impressive.
Ira?
This linebacker core, I think Coach Norvell said he feels like this is the deepest you guys have been since you guys have been here. Could you talk specifically about DJ and how far he's come? Because just watching practice, he looks even more instinctive. We talked about his body transformation, but he seems to be more instinctive and just better all around. How far has he come?
Yeah, I think he's our most improved linebacker. And that's not to knock anybody else. That's just his own growth. And, you know, different people develop at different rates. He's played every year since he's walked on campus. Obviously, he's been in more of a limited role, special teams role, base linebacker, you know, but, you know, he was kind of in our top 3 last year, but, you know, it's a new year and he's really made a lot of strides. I mean, he's definitely our most physically imposing backer from just size, strength, power. I've always thought he's brought some versatility to rush the passer. We haven't used him that way very much. But I think his just growth has really just come along. You know, I think Randy's done a good job with him. I think he's done a good job with himself, just adding layers to his game each year, and he's moving better. And so it just gives us an opportunity to try to get him on the field more.
Essen?
For Gilbert, he's listed as a backup to Jared, I believe. What did you see from him and how far has he come since he's gotten here on campus?
You know, Gilbert's played. You know, we went through the whole spring, went through the fall. You know, he's had a stretch there in camp that I thought he was really making strides. We continue to challenge him. I think all the skills there. He's got great size. He's got good football to him. He's played a good amount of snaps, so there's some history there. But this is his first time with us. And I'm confident in Gilbert. I'm confident that we get the responses when we need them from him. I'm confident in the tools that he has. And I think this will be his best year because he's going into his later year in his career, and he's had enough experiences that we can build on those. And I think the competition here, I think with his ability, you combine that with the stages that will help put this team on, I think we'll see the best of Gilbert.
Brendan?
Understand that it's constantly evolving defense and just football in general as the season goes, but what do you feel good about going into the season? What are strengths, things that you can rest easy on going into game 1?
Yeah, I just think the veteran presence, you know, it doesn't guarantee perfection, but it guarantees having a better sense of the ups and downs throughout a game, the ups and downs throughout a season. You've got a lot of history, not to fall back upon, but to grow from where you were. And I just, at all levels, you know, up front, at linebacker and in the secondary. And, you know, the great part about new seasons, you have the infusion of new players, you know, and that comes at all levels too, you know, whether it's guys that have developed like a Byron Turner that's been on the team for multiple years, but now will have, you know, more of a role, to new players that just arrived, to incoming freshmen that have made an impact. So, you know, even though the answer is the strength of the guys coming back and just the veteran leadership I think we have, but then how does that mesh with the new group? And I thought we've had a tremendous camp. You know, our guys in all levels, you know, the sweat they put in, but also the time together. You know, you just see the growth of this team, and I just think, you know, the time is coming soon, and you know, I hope it's all perfect, but I feel confident that no matter what happens, the highs and lows, that we'll come out the other side, and we'll come out a better football team.
Back to Ira.
You have, in the safety position, moving Kevin there obviously helps shore things up. You have think 3 freshmen listed on the 2 deep. Does that speak to what they are as true freshmen, or does that speak to the need you guys have in that position?
Probably both, you know, but we try to play guys at multiple spots, you guys know that, and so if those 3 couldn't play there, you'd see another guy there. You know, I think we've got enough depth at some of the corner spots that you would have saw in one of those movements. But Kevin's been really good for us, and I think he's one of our smartest players on our football program. He's got a real toughness to him. He's got playmaking to him. And so when you add him to that group, that adds a veteran presence to it, which allows you, I don't want to say time, because we've had time with these younger guys now, but where they can start to signify their roles. And, you know, some of that's pretty set, but some of it's ever flowing too, you know, and I think Conrad Hussey, Ashlyn Barker, and KJ Kirkland, like, they're gonna help special teams, defense, some more than others, and I'm sure that's, you know, I've got my mindset kind of now, how they're gonna help, but as the game goes on, you know, I think my opinion on what Jared Verse is gonna give us is pretty strong. You know, my opinion on what we're gonna see from Tatum Bethune, Renardo Green, and I don't wanna say they won't exceed my expectations or our expectations, but there's just more history there, and you got a good sense of where it's gonna go. For the younger guys that you mentioned, Ira, those 3 safeties that are the 2 deep, they're gonna get opportunities. How that goes will really start to layer on itself as the season goes up, right? That book will add pages, and but they're there because I think they can help us win football games. You know, some of that's gonna be, you know, 20 plays on defense, some of it's gonna be 20 plays on special teams, some of it's gonna be combined, and those roles are still fluid right now. But all 3 of those guys are rolling through and are with our second group right now, and they're all getting reps.
I know he's not listed as a starter, but what did you think of the preseason that Azarie had? And did he make, at least in my eyes, and I'm not you, but did he make some big strides since this spring?
100%. You know, Azarie, before the season started, we had a lot of returning guys back, and you know, we prepped Azarie before the summer started that, you know, I know he has playmaking to him, you know, and he played as a true freshman and played over 200 snaps and gave us some really good snaps. And so my job was to he's a corner, that's what he is. But we tried to create different roles for him to give him those opportunities. And every time we did it at fall camp, whether it's at nickel, whether it was at corner, whether it was at dime, whether it was at safety, all different spots, he really took off. And I think, you know, some guys early, you gotta make that decision of, okay, is it too much making him less of what he is? Or is it really starting to promote all of his attributes? And with Azarie, it was the other way. And so, you know, I don't know what the rep count's gonna end up being, but, you know, Azarie is gonna be on the field a lot. Special teams, defense, I mean, he's gonna be one of those key contributors in the secondary right now.
Kirk?
You could study some film of him from before, but last year Dayton Daniels was game 1, obviously. There was a lot of newness that comes with him being at a new place. With a year under his belt now, how did you see him develop last year to where he is now coming into this year?
I mean, he led that team to a really good season. I mean, they had double-digit wins, played in the SEC championship game, and he was as consistent a playmaker as they had in that entire team. You know, so, you know, he's a quality quarterback. You know, he's obviously done a lot with his legs, which has created some things with his arm. But, you know, we saw through his history last year, through all those games, you know, he's a talented player. You know, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the country, and he's done a nice job. He's played a lot of college football. You know, he's got a full year under his belt with Coach Kelly and Coach Denbrock, and you know, they've really done a good job of playing to his strengths. And so, you know, he's a good quarterback, and looking forward to the challenge of Sunday.
What makes Malik Neighbors so potent and dangerous for them? And do you like to have a guy on him the entire game, or is it better to mix up personnel so that he has a different feel for who he's going up against?
Yeah, I mean, he's a proven all-SEC player because he's big, fast, and sure-handed. You know, he runs like a slot receiver, and he has big body catches like an outside receiver. You know, so they've started to move him around. You know, and I think as they were going through last year, I think they felt confident in him. They had a couple other pieces too. They were trying to find what that looked like. I think just seeing his production towards the end of the year and through spring practice and through fall camp, you know, I think he's established himself as their probably main target on the outside. And so it's gonna be necessary to put the right attention to him.
You mentioned earlier, like having an idea of what Jared Verse is gonna be able to give you guys going into the season. Last year, you maybe had an idea of it, but didn't know for sure. I guess having the luxury of knowing that guy, how impactful he is, like what does that do for you as a defensive coordinator that he is a building block, I guess?
Well, it creates expectations, but you know, I think that goes obviously Jared, but there's a lot of pieces like that. I mean, how do you get better as a program? Individuals get better, you play together. You know, I think you can go down the list of people that we were. I mean, Bernardo Green last year going in this game, like, did we know that he would return as a starting corner? No, right? Some people in this building we did, but there's a lot of names like that. Greedy Vance, you know, Patrick Payton, you know, and so I think with Jared, you know, just like most guys, obviously he had a very impactful year, but you know, it is. I mean, it feels good to have really good players. You know, I'm excited about that. Looking forward to him going out there and putting that on display.
Last year, you guys, the depth got really tested on the defensive line as the year went on. How much better do you feel about being able to kind of withstand anything that comes your way? You can never tell what's going to happen, but how much better do you feel, I guess, about the depth of the defensive line?
Well, we have more depth this year. You know, we graduated a few guys, but we brought some in, and I think we've gotten progressively better and deeper. They've kind of coincided, right? And I think we've had some elite players there, and we're deeper, we're better. You know, what that's gonna look like week 1, 2, 3, you know, because you get whatever the season takes its toll, but we've recruited that way to make sure that as the season goes on, as the game goes on, we've got enough pieces, you know, so it's important that we take advantage of those pieces early so that we can keep those pieces healthy throughout the year and we can play our best, you know, late in games and late in the season.
You got 2 more?
When it comes to neighbors, how much does it help your DBs, what they see every day in practice? Because they're seeing, you know, with Johnny and Keon, some unique dudes that, I don't know if they're the exact same kind of receiver that Malik Neighbors is, but they're really hard to cover too. How much does that competition help each day in practice going up against something like that?
Yeah, and Corey, you hit it. I mean, when your best way to get better is the 6 days a week you're competing with each other. And I think the better both sides of the ball is, and you know, that iron sharpens iron mythology is just that mindset. And so, you know, I think it helps us having those 2 big receivers. It's hard to you can't just practice against a 5'11" guy all year and then find how it feels to practice against a bigger receiver. So you know, I think we're fortunate to have, you know, the offense that we do to give us an opportunity to get up to that speed, to get up to the matchups. And I think, you know, you probably ask the offensive guys the same question, and I'm sure it helps them too. So, you know, I think that's part of the reason that Coach Norvell's probably expressed, and I'll reiterate, like, this is one of the better camps we've been a part of. I think because of the mindset of the players, the amount of returning players we've had, but then what that does for a one-on-one competition day in and day out. You know, it's not one side of the ball, it's not one position group. You know, it's been a battle, and so I think that'll really sharpen us for game 1 and sharpen us for the season, because that's what it's about.
Aswan?
You talk about experience and familiarity with your players. A guy like Fabian, do you have a sense of what you would like to see from him this week to be able to rely on him on Sunday?
Yeah, knock people backwards and make a bunch of tackles in the backfield. That would be fantastic. You know, and Fabo can do it. I mean, that game he played last year against them, and that was one of the better defensive tackle performances I've saw. You know, you know, obviously he's coming off of that injury that he had at the end of last year, and but he wants it. He wants it as bad as anybody. So, you know, I'm looking forward to making sure that we put him in the right spots and get the right amount of work out of him. I'm excited to see what he does.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Sorry about the alarm. It was earlier.
Remind
Seven.
yourself that you had a press
Yes.
conference.